The assignment.
Monday is assignment day, where Nick Turpin, our special guest today, sets a photography challenge or a way to think about your picture making for the next week. It's a challenge for everyone, whatever kind of photography interests you, as I say. Whatever camera you hold, the DSLR, the mirrorless, the compact, the smartphone, it's all about the picture that you see. And whilst last week I think stretched the abilities of a smartphone, you'll be good to go again with this one, if that is the way you see during your weekly travels, which is relevant for the challenge that Nick will set. As always, there's a show page on the website, photowalk.show, and I'd love you to share the pictures you make for this challenge, which I can then upload to the show page for this edition. And you can check back, of course, to see pictures from previous editions. Before we meet Nick, my thanks to our wonderful patrons who we call Extra Milers, and mpb.com, who sponsor this show, the number one company in the UK, the US and Europe, with bases in Brighton and Brooklyn and Berlin when it comes to buying, selling and trading quality used camera kit online. It's a safe place to do business with, importantly, guarantees upon what you buy. mpb.com. A look ahead to the photo walk this week, and my guest is Sue Flood, who is an award-winning wildlife and travel photographer, filmmaker, guide, author, public speaker, and she shares how she managed to navigate her way to where she is now. And we talk also about the songs of the ocean, which will make more sense when you hear it, quite literally, and we talk about this process of calm that photography brings us, and most certainly Sue.
One of the group asked me, do I meditate, which I don't. And then the friend said, Danny said, oh, Sue does meditate every time she picks up her camera. Yeah. And it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because actually, I guess that is a way of looking at what I do. You know, I pick up my camera and everything else switches off and I'm in the moment, and it's my safety blanket. It's what, I guess, calms me and just transports me into another world.
Sue Flood talking to me during the photo walk on Friday. Let's meet our guest for today then, setting you a challenge for the next 7 days.
The assignment.
Nick, I know your assignment is a reflection of your own photography of the public realm or public spaces for clients, large organisations and architects and developers. It's a very impressive list whenever I look down your list. Let me give some examples. Barts Hospital, the HS2 development at Euston, which is for our international audience a rail project. Also the City of London, Transport for London. But we know you on this show, Nick, in terms of your appearances, more for your street work. Though your commercial work, I would say, before you go about setting this assignment, is an important part of your photographic identity, isn't it, really? I mean, the whole thing melds together, doesn't it?
Yes, very much. I mean, street photography has been at the heart of my practice for over 30 years. Even when I was a newspaper photographer, I was always looking for the little quirky, unusual things that everybody else missed. When I was an advertising photographer, I always shot ads that, looked like quirky moments in the street. And even on the shoots, sometimes I would say, oh, let's just go over here and put a balloon up and shoot here, or, do something unusual. And I guess now, I'm working on a lot of public realm projects for those sorts of people. I still have that street photographer in me. And so when I go on those sorts of projects, I'm still looking for a fantastic composition, but that beautiful moment, which I love to see in a street photograph.
Well, there's two examples that we were discussing, but I'm going to pick Exodus as the one that I want to use as the example. Shot in the financial district of London during the pandemic. You started in March 2020, runs into February 2021, doesn't it? And this part of London, for those that aren't aware of it, known colloquially really as the Square Mile, which is an urban landscape of this most incredible glass and steel office buildings all together. And Exodus, of course, during this period, I mean, I can see how that speaks clearly of a city usually dressed with people. Suddenly, and for a period, it's not. And there's a sort of 28 days later running through that work. And I know that's a cliche from that period, but I do think of that still when I see empty streets of London. But no, you always manage to find somebody in your pictures, and particularly at the start, usually quite solitary people who give the place some sort of scale and sparseness and majesty, all in one unusual package. And I believe that's the starting block, isn't it, for the assignment you're about to set? Yes,
I mean, I think, when I teach street photography, I always say to people that, if you can get a beautiful composition, a beautiful frame, and a fantastic moment in the same picture, in the same camera frame, the chances are you've got yourself a good photograph, And I think even when I was out in the city and it was deserted because everybody was, in lockdown, I was still trying to do the same thing, but I had less, fewer people to play with. I had all of this structure and space and all these buildings and architecture and parks and, as you say, all this glass and steel. And so, I had to juxtapose people with the environment, this sparse environment. And that's, all photographs, street photographs, I think, juxtapose things. There are elements within the picture and you put them together and there's a dialogue between them, which often creates a new meaning or creates humor or something surreal, or it changes things. And it's the photographer that puts those two things together, or three things or four things, depending on how good you are. And I was still doing the same thing that I do with a little camera as a street photographer. I was doing the same thing with a bigger camera and a tilt shift lens in the financial city in that project. So but I just didn't have the people to play with, so I had to work with the buildings and the architecture.
But when you did have the people, there's a great amount of, as always in your work, patience. There's one particular picture, and I'm sorry, I'm working from my memory now, having looked at the picture only half an hour ago. I'm sure she's wearing green. I'm sure the grass behind her is green, and then there's an awful lot of glass. There's an awful lot of city, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and it does say to me Nick Turpin picture, which is a good thing. So let's talk about this assignment then, and what you're hoping people might do.
Yeah, so the assignment that I'm setting is based on the way that my work has gone in the last couple of years, and the things that I've learned and the challenges that I've sort of had to beat, I suppose, or deal with during that time. So the assignment is to make a picture that captures a place, a space, or a structure, as well as the people that bring it to life. So try and combine strong composition and a moment in the same frame. That's what I'd like to see. So, it could be a building, but it could also be, a public artwork or a sculpture, something that is physical and static, or, a scene. It could even be a tree. Actually, it doesn't actually have to be a man-made structure. I mean, although I envisaged, an urban kind of environment, and then, bring it to life with the people that pass it, that sit on it, that look at it, that cycle past it, that clean it, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? That if you stand there, things will happen, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to see.
When you're in your landscape, as it were, your urban landscape, I would imagine, and the example that I just gave of patiently waiting for somebody who was wearing the right colour, I would imagine that's part of this whole process, isn't it? Really, you're very rarely returning home with the first thing that you see from that one scene, are you?
No, I mean. The idea of a decisive moment, like seeing a self-contained street photograph as soon as you arrive, is a myth. I spent hours sometimes watching these scenes.
Is it literally that long? Sometimes you can be in the same place, if not hours, yeah. Certainly the best part of one.
Oh yeah, sometimes if I don't get the shot, but the light is nice, I'll look at my watch and go, I'll know that 3:00 on this corner, the light is beautiful, and I'll come back the following day and have another go at it sometimes, if I think it's good enough. I mean, a lot of the pictures in Exodus are beautifully lit. They've got strong winter light and it bounces off glass walls and so on. And I always make a little note of the time and where the light is good, and then I know to be there roughly the same time the next day. But it's a bit like setting a trap. So I find this lovely scene, this beautiful view or vista, and I'll take a quick picture and have a look on the back of the camera. And if it looks great, I feel like I'm, with no people, I'm 50% there. I've just got to wait for the people, the actors to come and fill the scene and bring it to life to give me the other 50%,
And I love that phrase. I'm waiting for the actors to show up.
Yeah, well, this is what, if you're a street photographer and you go out regularly, you will see that the same stretch of pavement is different every single day, different at every different time of day. I did a project in Piccadilly Circus over 3 years. And, one day I went there was a model shoot going on, fashion shoot. I went another day and there was muscly guys doing pull-ups on the Piccadilly Circus subway entrance. One day I went, a guy was having a heart attack on the steps of Eros.
Oh, my word.
Same bit of pavement. You go in the evening, people are there out going to the theatre and the cinema and that kind of stuff. It's always different. And it's like there's a different play on every time I go and have a look.
Now, I am going to inevitably say you live in one of the most amazing playgrounds in the world in which to make fantastic street photographs and stories. What if I, and you know where I'm going with this, and I want to join in with this assignment, live in a sleepy village, quite a way out of the nearest urban metropolis. How am I going to approach the project, the assignment rather, that you're suggesting, the challenge?
Yeah, well, I think there are still locations in those places that you can use. I think the challenge is that there are fewer people passing, so it may take you a bit longer. You don't have quite the throughput of the footfall, I guess, But, I think if you've got a village church, or there is a bridge or dry stone walls and things, there are pictures to be made. I mean, one picture comes to mind of a colleague of mine, Nils Jorgensen, of a dry stone wall that he took in, I think, in the Lake District. And there's just 6 or 7 llamas, heads just looking over the top in a line, like they're watching cricket or something. I mean, it's unexpected. It's a structure. It's been brought to life. But also you could go to somewhere like a sculpture park. If you live in Yorkshire, go to the Wakefield Sculpture Park. There are massive Henry Moore sculptures and things there. You could use something like that. I don't think you have to be in the centre of a big city to make these sorts of pictures. Seaside locations are very good as well. Regional towns, they all have spaces. It's a very nice project I always talk about that a friend of mine, Adam Maisie, did, where he just sat on a bench opposite a white hoarding around a building site. Right. And just photograph people coming backwards and forwards from the NCP car park to the centre of town. I think it was in Norwich. Again, that's just like a very simple device using a little structure to make pictures which are very unusual and out of the ordinary.
You've just reminded me, you might know the photographer who did this one. There's a cracking picture the last couple of years. It's a white cricket screen, and against the white cricket screen there is a cricketer there, the bowler. If you're not familiar with cricket, I do apologise, but one thing that we do when we bowl is we rub the ball on our trousers to... Why did we do that? Was it to give it...
To get a shiny side.
The shiny side for spin?
It spins, I think.
For spin, yeah. And he was inspecting his trousers, looking really disappointed. It's a really difficult thing to explain, but he was shoved right to one side of the frame. But there we go. We've got structure, we've got person, we've got story.
Yeah. You can even use the side of a white lorry or a white van parked up. Stand across the street from it, and you've got a backdrop that a foil, so you can actually do quite a big picture. But anybody who walks in front of that is going to be popped forward in the shot. You can do something like with a delivery van or whatever. I mean, it's any sort of structure or object. I don't think we have to be too specific about this, and then bring it to life with the people. That's the key.
So we're looking for a scene, bring it to life with a person, create an act.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you go to an art gallery and photograph art, it can be pretty dull. But as soon as a person comes along and has a look and then reads the sign or has a look in the top, it could be a museum as well. Anything like that where people come and go and they're looking at those things. Suddenly there's a relationship between the person and the artwork. Yeah. But it could be a sarcophagus or a pot or whatever. Who knows?
Fabulous.
But if you've got your eyes open, I think you can make these juxtapositions and you can make these dialogues between things, and you can solve this assignment.
Well, that's our challenge for this week. I'll be delighted to see what you produce and would love to show them on today's corresponding show page, episode 345 that will be, on the website photowalk.show. Music is from artlist.io. Neil Ford, Emily Renier and Andrea Gilpin, thank you for your support work behind the scenes, and I look forward to photographing with you, hearing from you and talking with you on the Photo Walk.
The assignment is a Loading Zone production.